Welcome, everyone, to my brand new show, Everyday Ethics. I intend on doing this every weekday at 2:30. If there's going to be days I'll have to miss, I, of course, will let you know. So let me just give you a little rundown on what I anticipate this show being. I want to apply the objectivist ethics. Oh, you can't really, there it goes, of Ayn Rand to everyday life. I want to be able to converse with the audience. I would like for you to bring me your ethical dilemmas or your ethical problems, and we can discuss them on a daily basis. I also will discuss my ethical quandaries or any ethical issues that I am having. And I think it could be a really good show. I've got an abundance of experience at being very, very unethical, at learning about ethics and about turning my life around. And my life is much better since I've been living an ethical life. And I would like to be able to share that with you, the audience. Hopefully, we can grow together. I don't want the show to be about theory. Of course, theory is necessary. We have to discuss it. We have to get into it a little bit, but I don't want to get bogged down into the weeds. That's one thing. Another thing is this is not a debate show. So the people, I love to debate ethics, and I'd be happy to debate ethics in another format, but not this one. So please don't come and bring objections or technical objections. It's okay to question me and to ask me how I got my conclusions, but I just don't want this to be that kind of show. This is a self-help type show, a practical show, and I really think that we can learn a lot together, grow together, and help make this a better world together ultimately. So that's my goal. Of course, feel free to hit the super chat icon. I believe it's there, and I would really appreciate whoever wants to hit that and donate. That would be fantastic. So, for those of you who don't know, I spent 25 years in prison, and I was a very bad person. I committed a lot of violent crimes, and I ended up in prison. But while in prison, I did a lot of reading. And one of the writers that I came across was Ayn Rand, and she ultimately convinced me, not personally, but through her books, to adopt her philosophy. The ethical system that she taught or that she advocated, we could call rational egoism. What that means is that, oh, wow. Thank you so much, Jenna Kleem. Wow. I won't expect it every time, and I really, really appreciate it. You are absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much. So egoism means that it is ethical for you, for me, for all of us to act in our own best interest, to do what is best for us. Now, the way that Rand arrived at her conclusion was with her Daniel Suska says coffee on him today. I'm supposed to be buying the coffee today, champ. So she identified the fact that the concept of value, the root concept, the fundamental concept in ethics, value, is objective, and that the standard by which to measure value is life, and moral value would be human life. So the way to gauge whether something is good or bad for me is how it impacts me, my life. How it, does it help to sustain me? Does it help me to flourish? Does it help me to grow? She identified three fundamental values: reason, purpose, and self-esteem. Reason should be valued because it's our means of survival and our only means of knowledge. It's how we learn things and how we expand and how we accrue things that we need in life to survive. Purpose is how reason functions. It has to be directed at something. We cannot just, wow, Deeper Diego, better objectivist by $1. Thank you so much. I don't know if that makes you a better objectivist, but it does help with the cash flow. Highly appreciated. So purpose means we have to set goals for ourselves. We have to direct our energies and our activities toward things, towards achieving things. And self-esteem is the judgment that we make of ourselves. It's a combination of self-confidence and self-respect, or a better way to put it, it's not my formulation, it's Rand's, but I have to know that I'm capable of living and worthy of living. Self-confidence, self-respect. Katrin gave something, but it's German money, so I don't understand it. But thank you, Katrin. So those are the things that we should value. But she also laid out virtues, 7 of them, 1 primary, 6 derivative. The fundamental virtue is rationality, meaning we live by reason. And then she had being productive, productiveness. We need to produce the things that we are going to survive on, that are going to benefit our lives, that we can trade for other things. Honesty, that's just adherence to reality, right? We live in reality. If we want to succeed in reality, we have to recognize it. We can't fabricate an alternative reality and attempt to live in that. Independence is, independence of thought. We form our own conclusions. We do our own reasoning. We don't parasitize a word. We're going to make it a word. Other people's thinking. It's okay to learn from other people, but we ultimately have to learn for ourselves and make the conclusions ourselves. Justice, meaning that we treat people the way that they deserve to be treated, whether that be rewarding, punishing, whatever. Integrity is loyalty to rational principles. We have to live a principled life. And then pride. Pride means parasite. Being a parasite, Nicole, is what I meant. Pride is striving for moral perfection, striving to be the best that we can possibly be. Now, obviously, this is a quick synopsis. We are not, that's not a deep dive. For instance, every virtue has both an intellectual and an experiential component. So to be productive, I need to first think and then produce in reality. Honesty means both being honest in the sanctity of my own mind, but also being honest with those with whom I communicate. Independence means both forming my own conclusions, but then acting them out, not expecting other people to take care of me. Justice, it means, of course, forming conclusions about what somebody deserves or doesn't deserve, but then actually also acting it out and giving it to them. Integrity means living these principles, and pride means, acting them out and trying to be moral people. So to start with, I'll just say I had a very interesting experience today. It's something that I'm sure everybody here deals with. It's online. And I was in a chat room and I saw that guys were commenting on somebody who threatened somebody else online, which of course I don't condone. You shouldn't do that. What was interesting to me, though, was they neglected what led to it. And what led to it was somebody being a real jerk, right? And so what the guys neglected, not that it justifies the threatening behavior, of course it doesn't, but it also, the justification, also the fact that he was threatening doesn't justify the behavior that came before that. It doesn't justify being mean to people, being rude to people, insulting people. And I find that in some of the younger objectivist communities, especially those who want to be, ANCAPs, is there's this focus on the political. So it's all focused on aggression as if the rest of the virtues don't matter. And I'm not saying that's their intention or that even that's a conscious thing. I'm just saying that that's how it comes out. But how we treat people definitely matters in life. For one thing, when remember, this is egoism. It's about me. It's about you. It's about acting in my own interest. It's not in my interest to be rude to other people, to be mean to other people, for the simple fact that somebody might punch me in my face. I had a very strict rule that I tried to adhere to in discussions in prison, and that's never to turn the power in a conversation to over to somebody else, never to let things get away from me. So in other words, never to allow somebody else to strike at somebody else's insecurities where they start to become angry or they want to strike me or anything like that. So I would always try to dial things down verbally. And when you deal with people in real life, now, of course, somebody may just say, I'm not going to deal with you. Rational people don't want to deal with someone that's rude. So if I'm being rude, they're not going to want to deal with me. But also, people don't care about my ethics. So the fact that I think it's wrong to punch somebody in the face doesn't stop somebody from cracking me. And I don't want to get cracked. And I don't think any of you do either. So let's just judge rude behavior, whether it be online or otherwise. Is it reasonable? Remember our 3 values: reason, purpose, and self-esteem. Well, of course it's not reasonable. Is it indicative of purpose? Well, what's the purpose in insulting somebody? What are we trying to achieve? What are we trying to accomplish? And self-esteem, do people who are very confident in themselves, people who respect themselves, resort to insulting and rude behavior? No, of course not. Is it productive? No, it's counterproductive. It pushes people out of my life, people who might actually benefit me. I suppose you could say it's honest in a sense, if that's how you really think and feel. But if I'm honest with myself, I have to recognize that these behaviors are not good. They're counterproductive, as I said before. Independent. Well, if you're being rude to somebody else, you're kind of elevating them, right? Like, why are you being rude to them? Why are you acting this way? I don't want to say it's a form of dependence, because I don't want to push things too far with that. Justice. Is it giving somebody what they deserve? Well, I personally think that people, when you first meet them, you first encounter them, should be given the benefit of the doubt. We ought to think of them as rational people, as good people that warrant respect. We ought to not do to people things we don't want done to ourselves. So, do they deserve to be treated like that? I would say no, unless I have a reason to believe so. But in that case, I shouldn't deal with them anyway. So it's an injustice to be rude to people, to treat people in a way that they don't wish to be treated. Now, is it having integrity? Well, obviously not, because we're violating the principles that we're saying we're living by. And it can't be striving for moral perfection, because, again, we're deviating from the principles that we claim to be living by or trying to live by. So what I want now is I want to be a very interactive show. So what we're talking about right now is rude behavior, especially online, but not just online, but just being mean to people, being a jerk to people. I really want some questions to come in. Please ask your questions, give your comments, because that's how I want this show to go. Now, it's interesting to me because my friend Danny is in the audience. And I grew up with Danny, and Danny knew me when I was not a nice person, when I was a very unethical person, when I would lie, I would steal, I would cheat, I would use violence to get what I want or just to intimidate people. And I ended up in prison for, a very, very long time. But prison's not the only consequence of living unethical, right? When we live in an unethical fashion, the best kind of people will not want to be around us. So we deprive ourselves of the best people. Who will want to be around us? Like, who wanted to be around me when I was a criminal? Other criminals, right? Good people didn't want to be around me. People that were liars, well, they're fine with it. People that were thieves, yeah, that's great. Of course, they'd pick my pocket and I'd pick theirs, but that's not the kind of people I want to be around now. The honest people, the smart people, the productive people, the people that I can trade with, that I could be friends with, that I could benefit from, don't want anything to do with me if I am a jerk. Daniel says, I've come a long way. Thank you very much, sir. As have you. You're a very successful guy. You got a great family, and I'm really looking forward to our discussion over coffee. We've missed a couple now because of the COVID that I unfortunately have. Diego said, I just got home and he's taking a shower. Can't really talk at the moment. Don't want to get his phone wet. Okay, well that makes sense. But surely somebody else in the audience has confronted unethical people or rude people, rude behavior. How now? What's the flip side of that? What? How should we address people who are rude to us, who are jerks online or elsewhere? Violence certainly isn't the answer. That's not what we want to do. What I forgot to mention, by the way, that in objectivism, there's two really unethical things that you can do. One is evasion. What evasion means is to pretend things aren't what they are, to push things out of our minds because they're uncomfortable, or push things out of our minds about other people or about our own actions or our own insecurities. Remember, we have to maintain focus in contact with reality. And evasion takes us away. And the other is the initiation of force, using violence against other people. That remains so even if they're jerks. We still are not justified in using violence against them or using force against them. So what is the way? How should we deal with rude people, with obnoxious people, people who are jerks? So Nicole Hingle says common decency is a cheap investment. It costs nothing, but it makes our own circumstances run smoother and calmer, and it's less exhausting. Absolutely. It's so easy to just be decent, to just be kind to people. And I'm not talking about being a milk toast or being a kiss ass. Believe me, I'm the farthest thing from a kiss ass, and I speak my mind and say what I think, but I don't have to be a jerk. So Pragmatic Cloud says how to signal a boundary to those kind of people. That's a good point. What do you do? Well, if you're online, you can just block them. Obviously, you do not have to engage them. Now, sometimes I do. I slip and I get involved in that, and I wish I didn't. And I'm working on it, and I'm going to continue to work on it. I want to have rational discussion. So if somebody shows me that that's not what they're interested in, that they're interested in taking cheap shots or just being dumb or making stupid comments, I can stop engaging them. Now, what ends up happening is this is how you signal boundaries is other people learn that they can't do that. I learned a long time ago, it's a common saying, but it's that we teach people how to treat us. And I find this very, very true. And when people know that you're not going to tolerate them being jerks to you, they tend to not be jerks, or you just put them out of your life and they're no longer there. I'm reminded of a time in prison where we were going to eat together. Me and two of my friends and I were going to eat together out in the block. And they said, well, we don't want to eat out in the block because everybody's going to come around and they're going to be bothering us and asking us for food. And I said, well, they're not going to do that to me. So they didn't come out and eat. I sat by myself and ate, and not a person bothered me. You know why they didn't bother me? Because they knew that I was not going for it. I would tell them, leave me be. I'm eating right now. Can you please leave me alone? The other two had the habit of catering to that stuff. So people knew they would go for it. So that's what they did. Let's see. Jenna Kleem says that her second husband was a criminal and everyone in his circle was a jerk. Yes, Jenna, thank you. Daniel says sometimes surroundings dictate behavior and sometimes behavior dictates surroundings. Change what you can. Brother Daniel, I'm going to disagree with you that surroundings dictate behavior. Surroundings can impact behavior, but we are always in control of what we do and how we respond to whatever circumstances we have to be in. We do not have to let the behavior of others dictate how we behave. I'm reminded of a friend of my mom's. He was a gang member, drug user and whatnot. And I was about 18. And he said to me something that has always struck me and something I did not understand at the time, but I understand now. He said, Mike, whenever you go to these, it's because you're defeated here. Now, obviously, if somebody attacks me and I fight back, that's not the case. But generally speaking, I find that when I've acted violently in my life, it was a result of somebody hitting an insecurity inside me. I felt I couldn't be played for a punk, or I couldn't be played for a sucker. I've got to show him. What are other people going to think about me? It was always based on how other people were going to perceive me and my own insecurities. So, in that sense, he was right that whenever I went to violence, it was because I was defeated. I was weak. I wasn't being strong. I wasn't being tough. I was being a weak person. And I've learned, there's times in my life when I've walked away from things that were very hard to walk away from, but you do it and it takes strength. My friend Brent is probably the most courageous person I've ever met in my life. This guy just doesn't have the normal fear impulse that other people have. And recently he's still incarcerated. Somebody threw hot coffee on him. Brent would absolutely probably, have destroyed this guy in a fight. Brent certainly not afraid to fight. Brent walked away. He walked away knowing what the people around him in prison would think. He walked away knowing what the guy who threw the coffee on him would think. He walked away because he knew it was not in his interest to engage in physical confrontation with this guy. The COs saw it. Afterwards, they took the guy to seg, and it was over with. Now, Brent could have broke his skull, and then Brent ends up in segregation. He loses his job. He loses his contact visits. It wasn't worth it. So he did that calculation and did the right thing. Is that how men around you acted? Is that how men around you acted? I don't know what you're referring to, Nicole. I'm sorry. You're going to have to clarify because it's kind of downwind. Akira Felix says, if our environment was so important, I would have ended up a criminal. I know plenty of people like that. I mean, Danny, my friend here, knows in the neighborhood we grew up in. We grew up in a housing project, and that a lot of us ended up not, we on the wrong side of the law, but there were kids in our neighborhood who didn't hang around with us, who didn't come to engage in the things that we were doing, who weren't throwing eggs at houses or stealing or whatever else we were doing when we were kids. They just stayed away from us. So no, the environment does not determine behavior. Did people around me act violently, Nicole Hingle? Yeah, quite a bit. Growing up, we were always fighting in the neighborhood. There's no doubt about that. My father was violent. The people in his life were violent. And then, of course, in prison, there's a good share of violence. But I find in life, generally speaking, that people normally won't just haul off and hit you. And unless you're being a dick, well, then they might. But there's usually a way to diffuse situations. We don't have to cave to that. And if somebody's known to be violent, we should just stay away from them. But back to the rude behavior. We could tell people explicitly we don't want to be treated that way. That's one thing that we can do. And if that doesn't work, then we just distance ourselves from them. Jacob Vinograd, let me tell you a little bit about Jacob. Jacob is a Christian guy. He and I differ on that. We differ on politics a lot. This is a perfect example. But he's always cordial with me. I get along with him. I like him a lot. He's a really nice guy. He's nice online. He's been nice when I've debated him. He was nice when I met him in person. And that goes a long way. It's like Nicole said earlier, it's so easy to just be nice to people and be decent to people. So I'm glad Jacob showed up here for that reason, because we can be decent to people even when we disagree with them. We can be nice to them. There's no reason not to be kind. I agree that he says, why does everyone debate environment versus choices if it's not obviously a mixture of both? I mean, when I would throw genetics in there as well, I do think in the final analysis, the choice is up to us. But of course, one environment, I mean, look, my parents were both drug addicts. I was surrounded by violence from the time I was a little kid. Danny and I have a friend, Ben, that we grew up with. And when I was 6 years old, we got into a fight and Ben strangled me. And I went home and told my mother, Ben strangled me. And my mother told me, well, go grab a beer bottle and hit Ben with a bottle. So obviously at 6 years old, I'm in a situation where one guy strangled me and my mother's telling me to hit him with a bottle. My power of choice then obviously is severely limited. But as I get older and I see the kids in the neighborhood that are getting in trouble and the route that they're going and what's happening to them, and I see other kids who are doing better, who are doing well, I can now, as I grow, learn and make better choices. So even given the bad environmental constraints, I still can make better choices, as I did, by the way, in prison. While I was surrounded by people doing bad things, there's a ton of pressure in prison to do what's wrong. I've been called pussy and sissy and things because I wouldn't steal something or wouldn't mule something back for somebody else. That happened frequently, but I just didn't care. My future and my life were far too important to me to engage in that, to get involved with that stuff. I mean, why would I? Being violent cost me 25 years of my life, right? In prison, my mother died, my father died, my best friend died, um, my aunt died. 3 of those were suicides. I mean, all that I lost. I mean, when I'm talking to, like, when I talk to Danny or I talk to other guys that I knew when I was younger, they've had entire lives that I missed out on. They've had children, they've raised families, the kids are going off to college now. I've never even, for a brief period I did, but for most of the time, I've never even had my own apartment. I haven't paid bills. I don't know how to pay taxes. I've missed out on all that stuff because of something I did when I was 21. Now, I deserved it. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying that bad behavior tends to lead to bad results, and we can choose otherwise. I know, because I've chosen otherwise. I am no longer that human being. Is it to say that I never get angry? No, of course not. I get angry, frequently. Does it mean I never feel the urge to haul off and crack somebody? I get the impulse, but I tune it out of my brain, out of my mind. I say, no, I'm not going to do that. That is not in my interest to behave that way. That person most likely doesn't deserve it. And it works. I dial it down. Nicole Hingle gives me a great compliment. The fact that you realized all of that and turned your life around is remarkable. Thank you so much, Nicole. I really do appreciate that. It's very kind of you to say. Let's see. I want to see if I've missed any comments. So Deeper with Diego says, I'm well aware that my trolling proclivities portray me as possibly rude individual online. This is something I picked up growing up in New York City. Okay. Perfect example, Diego. Okay, you picked it up in New York City. So what? That doesn't mean you have to keep doing it, right? I've had a lot of conversations, and someone will say to me, "Oh, I've just always been this way." Well, so what? Or somebody will say to me, "Oh, that's how I was taught." Well, I was taught to shoot and rob people. Does that excuse me? Should I keep doing that? No, of course not. So just the fact that it is incredibly difficult to shed away. All bad habits are, Diego. But if we want to be ethical, if we want to be good people, that's what we have to do. I mean, it's a struggle. If it were easy, everybody would just do it, right? Let's see what we got here. No more comments. There should be a comma there. Well, thanks for that. So I've got about 2.5 minutes left to talk today, and I'll be back tomorrow, and I'll be back Thursday. I'll be back Friday. Tuesday the 16th, I will not be here because I'm going to the Soho Forum debates. So I'll be missing that day. But other than that, I plan on being here every day. I hope that in the future, people will bring more comments and more questions. I really want this to be an interactive show where we discuss ethics. Jim Valiant is in the audience. He says, great idea for a show. Thank you so much, Jim. Yes, this is a new show, Akira Felix. Every day, 2:30 during the week, I will be here. What does he say? Jacob Vinograd said, how much of changing behavior is philosophy versus understanding yourself psychologically? Well, you really need both, because you have to understand how you think, what motivates you, but you also have to understand what you want to turn into. And that requires philosophy. That requires ethics. You have to know what you want to become. So Stanton Samanow and Samuel Yokelson, two of my, One actually became a real life mentor to me, but through their books, it just helped me to really turn my life around. Um, and they put forth, the criminal personality inside the criminal mind, and they dissect criminal thinking, and they show what's wrong with it. They show where it goes wrong, how it goes wrong. But what they didn't really do was put forth an objective system of ethics. That I got from philosophy. That I got from Ayn Rand. So I used what they had to say to get rid of my criminal thinking and criminal behavior. And I used the objectivist ethics as a model for what I wanted to be. So everybody, listen, thank everybody so much. Thank you for the super chats. I really hope you will join me on an everyday basis. No, Greg Lewis, this was my own idea. I came up with this all by my lonesome, and I decided to do it alone. And I hope you guys will all join me on a daily basis. We'll be discussing ethics. Everyday Ethics is the name of the show, folks. Thank you so much for being here. Now, till tomorrow, I'm going to get coffee right now. Maybe it's a little late, but I'm doing it with a good friend. So it's great to go. Thank you, everyone, so very, very much. And I will see you tomorrow.